I still remember the exact moment she asked me that question. It wasn't dramatic. There was no thunder, no background music, no sudden pause in time like in the movies. Just the quiet hum of a hospital corridor, the faint smell of antiseptic, and the soft ticking of a wall clock that suddenly felt louder than my own heartbeat. I was just helping her out. Then she asked, "Would you marry a woman twice your age?" At first, I thought she was joking. I laughed. She didn't. And that's when everything changed. It all started 3 months earlier, on a hot afternoon that made the city feel like it was melting. I was 24, freshly graduated, unemployed, and trying to convince myself that I had my life under control. My days were a blur of job applications, rejection emails, and long walks just to escape the suffocating silence of home. My father had passed away 2 years ago, and my mother worked tirelessly to keep us afloat. I wanted to help, but the world didn't seem to have a place for me yet. That day, I had taken a shortcut through an old neighborhood, one of those places where time feels like it's been forgotten. Narrow streets, faded houses, and doors that creaked with stories. That's where I saw her. She was standing outside a small, slightly run-down house, struggling with a heavy grocery bag. The vegetables were spilling out, tomatoes rolling across the dusty ground, a bottle of oil threatening to crack open. Without thinking, I rushed over. "Let me help you," I said. She looked up at me, surprised. She must have been around 50, maybe a little older. Her hair was streaked with silver, tied loosely at the back. Her face carried lines, not of weakness, but of life lived fully, painfully, honestly. But her eyes were sharp, observant, almost guarded. "I can manage," she said, though her grip on the bag said otherwise. "It's okay," I insisted gently, picking up the fallen items. After a moment, she nodded. "Thank you." That was it. That's how it began. Her name was Sarah. She lived alone. I found out when I carried the groceries inside. The house was simple but clean, filled with books, old photographs, and a quiet loneliness that hung in the air like an invisible curtain. "You don't have to stay," she said as I placed the bag on the kitchen counter. "I know," I replied, smiling. "But I'm not in a hurry." That made her pause. "Most people are," she said. I shrugged. "Maybe I'm not most people." She studied me for a second, then turned away, hiding a faint smile. "Tea?" she asked. And just like that, I stayed. That first cup of tea turned into a habit. I started visiting her every few days, then every day. At first, it was just small things, helping her carry groceries, fixing a broken shelf, replacing a flickering light bulb. But slowly, it became something more. We talked about everything. She told me about her past, how she had once been a schoolteacher, how she loved literature, how she had dreams of traveling the world but never got the chance. "Life had other plans," she would say, her voice calm but heavy. I didn't push. I told her about my struggles, my fears, my frustration with feeling stuck. "You're young," she said once. "You think life is running away from you. But sometimes, it's just waiting for you to catch up." I didn't fully understand it then. But I remembered it. Weeks passed, and something changed. Not suddenly, not in a way you could point at and say, "There it is." But it was there. In the way she started smiling more when I arrived. In the way I started noticing the little details about her. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. The way her eyes softened when she talked about books, the quiet strength in her voice. And in the way silence between us stopped feeling empty, and started feeling comfortable. But with that comfort came something else. Confusion. Because I didn't know what this was. She wasn't just someone I was helping anymore. And I wasn't just a visitor in her life. One evening, I found her sitting quietly, staring at an old photograph. "Who's that?" I asked. She hesitated, then handed it to me. It was a picture of her, much younger, standing beside a man. They looked happy. Not the forced kind of happy, but the real kind, the kind you don't have to pretend. "My husband," she said softly. I froze. "Was?" I asked carefully. She nodded. "He passed away, 15 years ago." "I'm sorry," I said. She smiled faintly. "So was I, for a very long time." There was a pause. "Did you ever think about moving on?" I asked, unsure if I was crossing a line. She looked at me, not offended, not hurt, just thoughtful. "I did," she said. "But life doesn't always give you second chances when you want them. Sometimes, it gives them when you least expect them." Her words lingered in the air. I didn't know why, but my heart started beating faster. The question came a week later. At the hospital, she had fainted that morning, and I rushed her there, my hands trembling more than I wanted to admit. The doctors said it was nothing serious, just exhaustion, maybe low blood pressure. But the fear of losing her had hit me harder than I expected. I sat beside her bed, watching her sleep. That's when I realized something I had been avoiding. She mattered to me, more than she should have. More than I was ready to admit. When she opened her eyes, she saw me sitting there. "You didn't have to stay," she said weakly. "I know," I replied, my voice barely steady. "But I wanted to." She looked at me for a long moment. Then, quietly, she asked, "Would you marry a woman twice your age?" I blinked. "What?" She didn't look away. "I'm serious." I let out a nervous laugh. "You're joking, right?" "I'm not." The room felt smaller. My mind raced. "Why would you even ask that?" I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Because I need to know," she said. "Before I let myself feel something I shouldn't." That hit me hard. "Feel what?" I asked, though I already knew. She took a deep breath. "You." Silence. The kind that makes your chest tighten. The kind that forces you to face the truth. I wish I could say I had an answer right then. I didn't. Instead, I panicked. "This is complicated," I said, standing up. "You're not thinking clearly. You're not well." "Don't do that," she interrupted. "Do what?" "Pretend this is about anything other than what it is." I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated. "You're older than my mother," I said bluntly. "I know. People will talk. They always do. This isn't normal." She nodded slowly. "Neither is loneliness. But here we are." Her words cut through every excuse I was trying to build. "I need time," I said finally. She smiled faintly. "I'm not asking for an answer today," she said. "I'm asking you to be honest with yourself." The next few days were the hardest of my life. I avoided her, not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. I thought about everything. The age gap, what people would say, my family, my future. And then, I thought about her. Her laughter, her strength, the way she made me feel seen, understood, calm. I realized something uncomfortable. With her, I felt more like myself than I ever had with anyone my age. So what did that mean? A week later, I went back. She opened the door, surprised to see me. "I thought you weren't coming back," she said. "I wasn't sure I should," I admitted. "And now," I took a deep breath. "Now I know I couldn't stay away." We sat down. The same place. The same tea. But everything felt different. "I don't have all the answers," I said. "I don't know what the future looks like. And yeah, I'm scared." She listened quietly. "But I do know this," I continued. "What I feel for you is real. And I don't want to walk away from it just because it doesn't fit into what people expect." Her eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. "This isn't an easy path." "I know," I said. "But easy isn't always right." There was a long pause. Then she smiled. A real smile. The kind that reaches your soul. We didn't rush into anything. We talked. We faced the reality of what this meant. We told my mother, who was shocked at first, but slowly, after seeing the sincerity in my eyes, began to understand. We faced judgment, whispers, questions, doubt, but through all of it, we stayed honest, with each other, and with ourselves. Because love, real love, doesn't always look the way the world expects it to. Sometimes, it shows up quietly. In a dusty street, with a fallen grocery bag, and a simple act of kindness. A year later, I stood beside her again. Not in a hospital, but in a small, peaceful room filled with light. Still unsure, she teased gently. I smiled. "Not anymore." "Good," she said, "because I'm not asking again." I took her hand. "I'm glad you did," I said. And this time, when she asked, "Would you marry a woman twice your age?" I didn't hesitate. Yes, people will always have opinions. They will measure your choices against their expectations, their fears, their definitions of what's right. But at the end of the day, your life is not theirs to live. Love is not a number. It's not an age. It's not a rulebook. It's a connection, a truth, a choice. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose it anyway.